Okay, so Raj, I hear you had a ride on one of the Snowbird planes.
Yeah, in June of 1987, when I was practicing in Regina, I used to take care of obviously a number of women who had problems, and some of their husbands were in fact pilots at the Canadian Forces Base Moose Jaw, and were pilot trainers. And one of them, a fellow by the name of Rob Byers, knew that I was a reservist, and he actually got permission for me to go out flying with him one day over the lunch hour when he had to do his own compulsory flying that he needed to do to build up his hours every month.
So we taxpayers didn't pay for this little adventure?
No, he had to do the compulsory flying, so I got to fly with him. But before you could go out in the plane, into the jet, you actually had to go through some compulsory training. You had to learn how to, they gave you a harness just like you see on the television, and you had to learn how to hit the button on the harness and actually clear the harness to clear the plane in 6 seconds before you could go up. And then they took you through strapping yourself into the ejection seat, and I got to ride in the right-hand seat of this plane up in the front. And after this warrant officer had gone through explaining how all the buttons work, then he had the joy of telling you that you were actually sitting on top of 2 rocket engines that you were strapped into, and that if you had to eject from the plane, I mean, the order that was given was eject, eject, eject. And on the first eject, told you were going to be leaving the plane. The second one, the cupola, the cover on the plane came off. And on the third one, you actually exited the plane. And if you've ever seen the movie Top Gun, when they eject, what happens is the rocket that you're sitting on actually fires you out of the plane itself. And you're usually at sufficient altitude with all of these buttons and switches and all the rest of that, that you have to separate yourself from the seat for your parachute to open. But by the time you eject from the plane, you're usually probably unconscious. And what happens is that you're sitting on top of a second rocket that actually fires the seat in one direction and you in the other direction, and pulls all the wires to release the oxygen from the oxygen bottle that's strapped inside your coveralls that you're wearing, and also pulls the parachute cord so that when you wake up, if you had to eject, that you're floating down with your parachute open above you.
That's amazing.